The rain poured relentlessly over Boston that evening, and Emily sat by the large bay window of their apartment, watching the water streak down the glass in chaotic patterns. Each drop seemed to echo the restlessness she felt inside, a restlessness that had been building for weeks. She wrapped her hands around a warm mug of tea, but the warmth did little to calm her. Her husband, Mark, was in the kitchen, humming softly as he prepared something for dinner, and yet even his presence felt distant, as if a wall had quietly grown between them. She had tried to shake the feeling, tried to convince herself it was nothing, but every time the wind rattled the windowpanes, her heart skipped a beat. A storm outside mirrored the storm inside, both heavy, charged, and unpredictable. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected, making her jump slightly. She set her mug down, the warmth fading from her hands, and walked slowly to the door, wondering who could be out in such weather. She opened it to find Alex standing there, rain dripping from his dark coat, a small umbrella in his hand, and that same familiar warmth in his eyes that had drawn her to him years ago. He smiled hesitantly, as if uncertain about his welcome. "Emily, I know it's late, but I had to see you," he said softly, his voice both comforting and thrilling. Emily felt her heart catch, memories flooding back of laughter-filled nights, deep talks, and moments of connection she had thought were long buried. She noticed the way his eyes searched hers, looking for recognition, for some spark that had always existed between them. Mark appeared in the living room just then, drying his hands on a towel, and for a brief second, his gaze met Alex's, a quiet tension passing between them. Emily felt a pang of unease, wondering if her husband would ask Alex to leave, would draw a line that she wasn't ready to cross. But instead, Mark only nodded slightly and said, "Come in," a calm acceptance in his tone that surprised her. Alex stepped inside, shaking off the rain and removing his coat, leaving droplets on the floor, and Emily felt her pulse quicken. A mixture of excitement and guilt swirled in her chest. She couldn't tell if she was happy or afraid. They all moved to the living room, and Emily found herself sitting beside Alex on the couch, her hands almost brushing his as they adjusted their positions. He began to talk about his life, about the years since college, about his travels and experiences, his voice steady and familiar, and Emily realized she had missed this more than she had allowed herself to admit. Mark sat in the armchair across the room, sipping his tea, watching them with a quiet, unreadable expression. He did not interrupt, did not challenge Alex's presence, and that surprised Emily more than anything. She had expected some form of objection, some small attempt to protect her from this emotional closeness, but instead, he sat quietly, as if trusting her entirely. Emily found herself laughing at Alex's stories, a laugh that felt unrestrained, that reminded her of who she had been before life had become so routine, before she had settled into the rhythms of marriage, chores, and responsibilities. Alex leaned slightly closer when he spoke, his hand just shy of touching hers, and Emily felt a jolt of emotion she hadn't anticipated. Her heart raced, her mind swirled, and she knew that Mark saw it, that he must see the tiny sparks of connection that threatened to grow into something more. Yet he said nothing, only took a sip of tea and smiled faintly, almost as if he had anticipated this moment and had chosen patience over action. Emily's thoughts tumbled over each other, torn between past and present, between the man she had loved once so deeply and the man she had promised herself to in marriage. The intimacy she felt with Alex was electric, immediate, and undeniable. Yet guilt weighed heavily on her chest. How could she feel this way with her husband in the same room? And why did he allow it? That question lingered in her mind, twisting her thoughts into knots. she caught herself staring at Mark, searching for some hint of jealousy or anger, but his expression was calm, his posture relaxed, almost reassuring. It confused her, frightened her, and strangely, it made her heart ache with something she could not name. Time seemed to slow as the three of them shared stories, jokes, and quiet moments. Emily's mind raced with memories of college days spent with Alex, of nights talking under the stars, of dreams whispered only to each other. Those memories collided with the life she now had with Mark, a life of stability, comfort, and quiet love, but one that had perhaps grown too predictable, too safe. She realized she had been craving something she couldn't quite identify, a spark, a thrill, and it was here in the living room now, in the form of Alex's smile, the tilt of his head, the way his eyes lingered on her for just a moment too long. Mark remained a silent observer, his calm presence a strange anchor amidst the storm of emotions swirling between Emily and Alex. She wondered if he had known all along, if he had sensed the way her heart still beat for Alex, if he understood the depth of the connection that lingered. Even as she felt the pull toward Alex, she could not help but be aware of Mark's quiet strength, his patient trust, a love that allowed her to feel, to explore, to remember, without fear or reproach. It was both comforting and terrifying, this balance of freedom and loyalty, and Emily found herself trapped between gratitude and longing. As the night deepened and rain continued to lash the windows, Emily felt a tremor of something she hadn't expected, a realization that her emotions were far more complex than she had allowed herself to see. Alex's hand brushed slightly against hers as he reached for a cup of tea, and the contact, brief and innocent, sent a shiver through her. Her pulse quickened, her breath caught, and for the first time in a long while, she felt utterly alive. Mark's eyes were on them, calm, patient, and unwavering, and she understood then that he had made a conscious choice, a choice to trust her, to not interfere, to allow her heart to explore the feelings she had thought were buried. Emily's mind raced with all the possibilities, all the fears, all the excitement that surged through her. She felt a mix of guilt, longing, and a thrilling sense of rediscovery. She wondered if she was betraying Mark. Yet she could not deny the joy that Alex's presence brought her, the tension between the past and the present, between safety and desire, filled the room like the storm outside, electric and unpredictable. Each laugh, each glance, each small touch felt monumental, and Emily realized that the night would change her, perhaps forever. Finally, in a quiet moment, Alex reached for her hand more deliberately, his eyes locking onto hers, and Emily felt the weight of all her emotions in that single gesture. Her chest tightened, and she turned to look at Mark, seeking some sign, some guidance, some reassurance. He met her gaze with a gentle smile, soft and steady, his eyes calm, and in that moment, Emily understood the depth of his love, the depth of his faith in her, and she felt a wave of emotion crash over her, equal parts relief and longing, a complex mixture that made her heart ache with intensity. The storm outside began to fade, rain slowing to a gentle drizzle, but inside Emily, a tempest had only just begun. She realized that love was not always simple, not always about control, and not always about keeping things within prescribed boundaries. Mark had not stopped Alex, had not interrupted, had not tried to take control, and in doing so, he had given Emily something rare, something profound, the freedom to confront her own heart, to face her emotions honestly, and to navigate the complicated landscape of love and desire. As the night wore on, the room quieted, and Emily sat between the two men who meant so much to her. She felt a strange serenity, tinged with anticipation, knowing that this night was only the beginning, that the emotions, the connections, the questions, and the choices were far from over. Yet she also felt a deep appreciation for Mark, for his patience, for his trust, and for the love that allowed her to feel without fear. And as she finally leaned back into the couch, letting a quiet sigh escape, Emily understood that her heart had been awakened, in ways she could not have predicted, by a past she had never truly forgotten and a present that held infinite possibilities. The night ended with silence, heavy and full, Emily's mind spinning, her heart pounding, aware that the storm outside had passed, but the storm inside her had only just begun, between the pull of memory and the stability of marriage, between temptation and trust. She was suspended in a moment of emotional intensity, a moment that would shape the days to come. And just as her fingers brushed against Alex's hand one last time before he left, she glanced at Mark, meeting his calm, unwavering gaze, and knew, with both fear and relief, that he had made a choice that would define their love, a choice that would test her heart and force her to confront what she truly desired. The days after that rainy night passed in a blur, and Emily felt her world shifting quietly but undeniably. Alex had started visiting more often, always with some excuse, a book, a story, a memory from the past, or sometimes nothing at all, just the need to see her. Each time he came, he brought a warmth she hadn't felt in years, a lightness that made her laugh easily, even when her chest ached with conflicting emotions. Mark, meanwhile, remained quietly observant, never commenting on the frequency of the visits, never challenging Alex's presence. A calm sentinel who seemed almost untouchable in his patience. Emily could not understand it, and part of her feared it, wondered if he was allowing something he shouldn't, yet another part of her felt strangely grateful, grateful for the freedom, for the trust, for the love that seemed to carry her even as her heart pulled her elsewhere. One late afternoon, Alex invited Emily to a walk in the small park near their apartment, the air crisp with early autumn, the leaves painted in shades of amber and gold. She hesitated at first, but something in Alex's earnest eyes, the way he looked at her as if she were the most important person in the world, pulled her out the door. They walked side by side, their steps in quiet rhythm, talking about nothing and everything, reminiscing about college days, shared jokes, and silly moments. The laughter came easily, the kind that bubbles up from the soul, and Emily felt alive, her chest swelling with emotion, a mixture of nostalgia, joy, and longing. Mark's absence in this moment felt like both a relief and a strange pang of guilt. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the path, Emily noticed how naturally Alex leaned closer when he spoke, the way his eyes lingered on her just a moment longer than necessary, and she realized with a jolt that she was noticing every detail. The curve of his smile, the warmth in his voice, the small gestures she had forgotten because life had gotten busy, because love had become routine, because she had settled into comfort. But now, everything seemed charged with a quiet electricity, each step, each glance, each word carrying weight she could hardly bear. Returning home, Emily found Mark in the living room, standing by the window, looking out at the dimming sky. His posture was relaxed, hands in pockets, expression calm, almost unreadable. She felt a flicker of fear mixed with the longing still racing through her. How could he watch her, watch Alex, watch this closeness, and not act? She wanted to confront him, to demand to know why he allowed it, yet when she spoke, her voice caught. The words lodged in her throat. She could only look at him, feeling exposed, raw, aware that her emotions had gone beyond control, beyond understanding. And Mark simply gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture of quiet trust that left her both comforted and unerringly aware of her own heart. That night, Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the city outside. Her thoughts kept circling around Alex, around the way he made her feel, and around Mark, whose calm patience seemed almost a rebuke. She felt torn, pulled in two directions, one tethered to the stability of her marriage, the other drawn to the magnetic pull of a friendship that had always meant more than she admitted. Each memory of Alex, each laugh they shared, each lingering glance haunted her, making her heart beat faster even as guilt settled heavy in her chest. She realized that her feelings were not fleeting, not superficial, but deep, resonant, a pull that refused to be ignored. The next day, Alex invited her to a small art gallery he had discovered, a place filled with paintings that spoke of quiet emotion, landscapes that whispered stories, portraits that seemed to capture unseen depths. Emily had loved art since she was a teenager, and stepping into the gallery with Alex beside her made her feel a familiar excitement, a spark she hadn't known she missed. They wandered slowly, discussing color, light, and the subtle emotions in each piece. Alex's hand brushed against hers as he pointed to a painting, and Emily felt a shiver run through her. Small gestures became monumental, innocent touches felt electric, and she realized how much she had missed this feeling of being understood, of being seen. Mark had offered to drive her there, a simple gesture, but one that carried its own weight. Emily had noticed how he had let Alex lead, how he had chosen not to intervene, and the realization made her chest ache with a complex mix of love, fear, and gratitude. The drive back was quiet, the city lights reflecting in the wet streets, and Emily's mind replayed every moment of the evening, every brush of hands, every shared smile. She felt the tension of unspoken things, the awareness that Mark had seen, had noticed, and had chosen patience, allowing her to explore these emotions without interference. It both comforted and unsettled her. The idea that her husband could hold such restraint, could trust so deeply. As the days turned into a week, Alex continued to visit, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for a short walk, sometimes just to sit and talk. The dynamic between them shifted subtly. Emily felt freer, more confident in her feelings, more willing to explore her own emotions without fear of judgment. Mark remained quiet, but his presence was constant, a reminder that love did not always require control, that trust could be a stronger force than jealousy or anger. Each interaction with Alex was tempered by this knowledge, the awareness that she could feel, could experience, could connect, without endangering the bond she shared with Mark. One evening, Alex invited her to a local concert, a small, intimate performance of a band she had loved in college. Emily felt her heart leap at the invitation, part thrill, part fear. She knew Mark would allow her to go. He had given her that freedom before, and the thought of the evening sent shivers of anticipation through her. At the concert, the music surrounded them, and Emily felt as though time itself had slowed. Alex's hand found hers, fingers intertwining gently, and she felt the pulse of excitement, a mix of nostalgia, desire, and the joy of being alive. Every note of the music seemed to echo the emotions surging within her, and she realized how much she had been craving this feeling of complete, unguarded emotion. Returning home late that night, the streets damp from a light drizzle, Emily felt a quiet tension in the apartment, a mixture of anticipation and fear. Mark was waiting in the living room, his posture calm, hands folded, eyes watching her, and she felt exposed under his gaze. Yet there was no anger, no jealousy, only a steady presence, and Emily realized how deeply that trust touched her. She wanted to speak, to explain, to confess, but the words tangled. and she simply stood there, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, the closeness with Alex, the patience of Mark, the confusion, the longing, the deep, quiet love she had for both men in different ways. Alex had already left, promising to meet her the next day, leaving her alone with the swirling emotions and Mark's unwavering presence. Emily approached him cautiously, uncertain of how to navigate the mix of gratitude, fear, and desire. She spoke softly, almost a whisper, "Mark, I don't know what to do," and he simply reached for her hand, a gesture of comfort that carried immense meaning. "I trust you," he said quietly, his voice calm, firm, and full of love. Emily felt a lump in her throat, a mixture of relief and heartache, realizing that love was more than possession, more than control. It was patience, it was faith, it was giving someone the space to feel without fear. In the following days, Emily found herself reflecting constantly on the choices she had to make, on the emotions that had been stirred, and on the bonds that defined her life. Alex's presence was both a delight and a challenge, a reminder of a past that was still alive within her. Mark's quiet strength became a beacon, a grounding force that allowed her to navigate the storm of feelings with more clarity. Each moment with either man was charged with significance, every glance, every gesture, a reminder that emotions were complex, messy, and beautiful, and that love did not always follow a simple path. Emily began to understand the depth of Mark's patience, the quiet courage it took to watch her open her heart to someone else, and the depth of her own feelings. The tension she had felt was not weakness or betrayal. It was the complexity of human connection, the intersection of past and present, desire and loyalty, and the choices that shaped the course of a life. Alex's visits continued, but they were framed now by this understanding, a mutual respect for boundaries, for love, and for the bonds that were strong enough to endure testing moments. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Emily sat by the window with Mark, watching the fading light, her thoughts filled with gratitude, fear, and longing. She realized that love could withstand storms, misunderstandings, and temptation, if it was grounded in trust, patience, and understanding. And though the pull of Alex remained thrilling and undeniable, Emily felt a quiet strength within her, a confidence that she could navigate the delicate balance of her heart without losing herself or those she loved. The days ahead promised more emotion, more tests, and perhaps more revelations, but she felt ready, strengthened by the love she shared with Mark and the connection she had rekindled with Alex. And so, Emily faced each day with a new awareness, a sharper sense of her own heart, a readiness to embrace the complexity of her emotions, knowing that the choices she made would define not only her relationships but also her sense of self. The tension between past and present, desire and loyalty, had become a path, a journey of understanding, and Emily walked it with caution, courage, and a deep, abiding love, guided by the knowledge that Mark's trust had given her the freedom to feel fully, and that Alex's presence reminded her of the joy of remembering who she had been, and of discovering who she still could be. The night of the concert arrived with a crisp chill in the air, and Emily felt a rush of anticipation she hadn't experienced in years. Alex was waiting for her outside the apartment building, a small smile playing on his lips, and the familiar warmth in his eyes made her heart flutter. She had dressed carefully, though not extravagantly, wanting to feel confident without drawing unnecessary attention. Alex offered his arm, and she took it, feeling a thrill at the contact. Her pulse quickened as they walked toward the venue, the city lights reflecting on the wet streets from an earlier drizzle, and she felt the excitement of rediscovery coursing through her veins. She had always loved music, and the intimacy of the concert promised more than just notes and lyrics. It promised a connection, a spark of joy, a moment of feeling alive in ways she hadn't allowed herself for a long time. As they entered the hall, the soft murmur of the crowd and the warm glow of the stage lights wrapped around them, and Emily felt a sense of wonder, a rare lightness that made her forget her worries. Alex guided her to their seats, close to the stage, and she felt the thrill of anticipation in every small movement. Their hands brushed, then intertwined naturally, a simple gesture charged with emotion, and Emily felt the weight of the past lift slightly, replaced with the excitement of the present. The music began, soft at first, then building, and she felt the vibrations through her chest, each note echoing the turbulence and longing she had felt in recent days. Alex leaned slightly closer when he spoke, his voice low and intimate, and Emily felt the pull of their connection as strongly as she ever had. Mark's quiet patience had prepared her for this, though she had not realized it until that moment. She knew he would allow her to experience this, to feel the thrill and joy without interference, and the awareness made her heart ache with gratitude. She was aware of every feeling, every emotion, every thought, and it was all magnified by the music, the intimacy of the concert, and the closeness of Alex. Emily laughed softly at a comment he made about one of the songs, a laugh that felt like a release, a liberation from weeks of tension and confusion. She realized how much she had missed this lightness, this feeling of being seen, understood, and cherished outside of her marriage, and yet she felt guilty even as she savored the moment. After the concert, the walk back through the quiet streets of Boston was filled with soft conversation, small gestures, and shared smiles. Emily's hand rested in Alex's, and she could feel the warmth of connection, the electricity of closeness, and a sense of nostalgia mixed with excitement. Yet, even in this charged moment, Mark lingered in her mind, his calm presence, his patient trust, reminding her that love could be both freeing and grounding. That night, when she returned home, the apartment was dimly lit, and Mark was waiting in the living room, his posture relaxed, his eyes calm but attentive. Emily felt a flutter of fear and relief, knowing that he had watched her leave, knowing that he had allowed this experience, and realizing the depth of his trust in her. She wanted to speak, to explain, to confess, yet the words caught in her throat, tangled with the mix of longing, guilt, and love that overwhelmed her. Mark didn't rush her, didn't demand explanations. He simply gestured for her to sit beside him, and she did, her chest tight with emotion. "Emily," he said softly, "I trust you," and the simplicity of those words hit her harder than she expected. She felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief, love, and wonder at the depth of his patience. It was in that quiet embrace, that steady calm, that she realized the meaning of true love, a love that trusted, that allowed freedom, that held her even when her heart was pulled in other directions. Alex's presence had reminded her of joy, of excitement, of a connection that had never truly faded. But Mark's patience reminded her of enduring love, the kind that withstands storms without breaking. The following days were filled with subtle tension, quiet introspection, and an ongoing dance of emotions. Emily felt the pull of Alex, thrilling and undeniable, yet she also felt the gravity of her life with Mark, the stability, the care, the love that had been her anchor for so long. Alex continued to visit, sometimes bringing stories, sometimes simply sharing time, and each interaction carried weight. Each smile, each glance, each laugh, was a reminder of her past and a spark of joy in the present. But she navigated these moments with caution, aware of Mark's quiet observation, aware of the trust he had placed in her. The balance was delicate, yet it taught her something profound about love, desire, and connection. That feelings could coexist without destroying what was precious, if handled with honesty, patience, and respect. Emily began to reflect on the complexity of her emotions, the pull of nostalgia, the thrill of intimacy, and the steady presence of enduring love. She realized that Alex's connection had not replaced Mark, but rather reminded her of what it felt like to be fully alive, fully engaged, fully feeling, and she realized that Mark's choice not to stop her was not weakness, but courage, a demonstration of faith in her and in their marriage. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, a recognition that love was not about possession, but about allowing space, about trusting hearts, about understanding that emotions are layered, messy, and beautiful. One afternoon, Alex suggested a quiet walk through a nearby botanical garden, a place where Emily had once spent hours sketching and dreaming. She agreed, eager for the calm beauty of the surroundings, and for the chance to be with him in a space that felt safe, natural, and inspiring. They walked side by side, hands brushing, laughing softly, and sharing memories and ideas. Emily felt the pull of closeness, the thrill of recognition, yet beneath it all, a steady awareness of Mark's enduring love grounded her. She knew she could enjoy this moment without losing herself or her sense of loyalty. The garden, with its quiet paths and vibrant blooms, mirrored her internal journey, a mixture of clarity, growth, and emotional awakening. Returning home, the sun setting in fiery reds and soft pinks over the Boston skyline, Emily felt a quiet serenity, tempered by excitement and anticipation for the days ahead. Mark was waiting, calm and attentive, as always, and she felt the warmth of his love wrap around her like a protective cloak. She approached him cautiously, her heart full of emotion, and he welcomed her with a gentle smile, an understanding gaze that conveyed more than words ever could. Emily realized that love did not always need declarations, did not always require drama, but could be quiet, steady, and profound, and that sometimes the greatest strength lay in letting hearts feel freely, even when the path was complicated. In the following weeks, Emily's interactions with Alex continued, but they were measured, thoughtful, and full of a new understanding. She felt freer, more confident in her emotions, more capable of balancing the thrill of the past with the stability of the present. Each moment became a lesson in trust, in patience, and in the endurance of love. She recognized that the pull she felt for Alex was a reminder of a life fully lived, of joy and connection, while Mark's calm strength reminded her of the enduring power of commitment, of care, of a love that did not falter under tests or temptations. Emily's heart had learned to navigate both, to hold space for each, without losing sight of herself or those she loved. One evening, as the three of them shared a quiet dinner together, Emily, Mark, and Alex, there was an unspoken understanding in the room, a balance of past, present, and possibility. Emily noticed the way Alex's eyes lit up when she laughed, the way Mark's gaze softened as he watched her, and she felt a swell of emotion, realizing that love could be complex, layered, and still beautiful, that the connections we carry from the past do not diminish those we have now, but can enrich them, deepen them, if handled with care, respect, and honesty. And she realized that her life, her love, her heart, had grown stronger for these tests, for these moments, for the trust and patience she had been shown. As the weeks passed, Emily found a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. She allowed herself to feel fully with Alex when he was present, to laugh, to share, to remember. Yet when she returned to Mark, she carried with her the deep awareness of love's endurance, the quiet strength that held her safely, a bond that could withstand storms and temptations alike. She realized that love was not always simple, but it could be steady, resilient, and profound. It could contain longing and contentment, excitement and stability, all at once, if the hearts involved were brave enough to hold space for each other. And one evening, as the sun set over the Boston skyline, painting the sky in golden pinks and soft purples, Emily sat beside Mark, feeling the steady warmth of his hand in hers, her heart full, not with confusion, but with gratitude, for a husband who trusted, for a friend who reminded her of joy, for a love that had grown deeper through patience, faith, and understanding. She knew that life would continue to test her, that emotions would continue to ebb and flow, but she felt ready, strengthened by the knowledge that true love could survive storms, temptation, and the complexity of human desire, and that the greatest beauty lay in the ability to navigate the heart with honesty, courage, and trust. In the quiet that followed, Emily leaned against Mark, letting the moment wash over her, feeling the fullness of emotion, the richness of connection, and the depth of love that had grown stronger through trials and patience. She knew that both past and present had a place in her heart, that desire and loyalty could coexist, and that her journey through this storm of emotions had made her braver, wiser, and more alive than ever before. And in that moment, she understood that love was not a single path, but a landscape of emotion, experience, and trust, one that she could navigate with both courage and joy, guided by the unwavering strength of the man who had never stopped believing in her, and by the presence of the one who reminded her of life's exhilaration.